The 7 trumpets in Revelation. In this video, we'll talk about the Fifth Trumpet of Revelation. When I looked into some noteworthy commentaries of the past, on this section about the description of the locusts, I discovered the following conventional views. Henry comments that the crowns like gold is not a true but a counterfeit authority. Though the locusts appeared with the tenderness of women, they had the teeth of lions, meaning they were really cruel creatures. The king and the commander of this hellish squadron must have the powers of darkness under his rule and command. More on the concrete note, Clark comments that their faces were as the faces of men, suggests though locusts are symbolic, they are really men. Ladd and Mouse wrote that something like crowns of gold on their head implies that the locusts possess the power and authority to execute given duty, and the face-like men indicate that the locusts are also equipped with the intelligence and wisdom of men to behave in cunning and treacherous manner. In addition to Ladd and Mouse, Hughes and Besley Murray remarked that the hair of woman is related to the power, as in Judges 16:13 and 19 and 2 Samuel 14:25 and 26. Therefore, the 4 commentators argue that the long hair is an indicative of power given to carry out God's judgment on the dead. On that note, for those of you who have not already seen, I recommend you to take a look at the linked video, which talks about how the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico is connected to Israel and also the judgment of God. The essence of the video is that Monday the 19th of April in 2010 was the celebration date of Israel's Independence Day. But in the evening of April 19th, 2010, Obama and his administration announced from the White House an unprecedented policy towards Israel, in that the United States will not automatically stand with Israel in the UN Security Council decisions. The very next day, on April 20th, the BP Deepwater Horizon exploded, creating the worst environmental disaster in US history. So, as an alternative interpretation, we have again the crowns like gold. The primary dispersant spraying aircrafts of C-130 from the Air Force have the Airborne Warning and Control System, or AWACS, on the top, which looks like a crown on the head. This AWACS is the defining feature of this aircraft, indeed. However, with or without AWACS, the conventional commentaries allow us the room to interpret the crowns like gold as the counterfeit authority that has the powers of darkness under his rule and command. After all, these locusts are following orders from the king, who is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name is Abaddon Apollyon, which means destroyer. The C-130 aircraft also has another defining feature of protruded front that looks like a nose. And the front view resembles the face of man, if you please. The long wings or the blades of the propeller can evoke the hair like that of woman, especially when the blades are propelled in motion. The woman's hairs are blown by the wind. Or, going by the interpretation of the commentators Ladd and Mouse, Hughes and Besley Murray, who remarked that the hair of woman is indicative of power given to carry out God's judgment on the dead, in which case we may also argue that the streaks of spray dispersant represent the hair of woman, as they are long and are blown in the direction of the wind. After all, it was the core exit that tormented people, and the revelation writes that the people who are to be tormented are only those who have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Why would God care to write in Revelation, or more specifically, only in the description for the fifth trumpet out of all 21 events prophesied in Revelation, to show discrimination between those sealed by God and those without the seal of God? I believe this is God's special way of warning the readers that the time is approaching when this difference in spiritual standing will make a huge apparent difference in the outcome. Wait until the sixth trumpet sounds, And when the rapture occurs with the seventh trumpet, how about the 7 bowls full of God's wrath? And the following final judgment? There are ongoing events waiting in series for the humanities, but who comes out unscathed will depend on whether you are known by God or not. But another interesting discovery is this. Although the locusts look like the horses prepared onto the battle, we do not see any jets flying around. On the contrary, all the aircrafts making flights during the operation are the propeller types, whether it be the aircrafts over the Gulf of Mexico Ocean or the Black Hawk helicopters by the shorelines. All the flying objects, in fact, had the propellers, which is a striking characteristic of this incident. We also have the teeth of lions, representing the lethality and fierceness. In physical appearance, the teeth of lions impose certain levels of threat to the viewers with its alarming features, while in functionality, they are used to incise its prey. In case of this BP Deepwater Horizon incident, the teeth of lions on the C-130 aircrafts were used to spray the toxic dispersant, which were used to torment the inhalers. The locusts also had tails like onto scorpions, which are used to sting. As seen in the picture, the long tail section behind the aircraft corresponds with the core exit that stung the inhalers. Just as we have reviewed the relevant facts, the locusts of the BP Deepwater Horizon sprayed the core exit dispersant, which was their power to sting and hurt men. The locust exercises power for a duration of 5 months exactly as the Bible prophesied. If the BP Deepwater Horizon is indeed the fifth trumpet, then there would be a king who is the angel of the bottomless pit that the locusts follow their orders after. King has the name of Abaddon in Hebrew tongue and Apollyon in Greek tongue, and its meaning in English is destroyer. We are not aware of anybody named Abaddon, Apollyon, or Destroyer, but as much as these names are symbolic, our inference can also be made based on symbolic reference. While we can treat this king as a mere spiritual entity, it is suffice to say that it bears the actual physical form. Then who might be this king of the locusts? Can he be the actual commander-in-chief of the mobilized military units? Or can he be some influential hidden figure with political power of great magnitude that he can orchestrate the disaster and cleanup activities on a global scale? Although it is quite early for us to make judgments, we shouldn't also neglect the fact that the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill is recorded as one of the worst man-made environmental disasters in US and world history. Just look at the image from the NASA's Aqua satellite. Judging from its extensive negative and destructive impact on the lives and ecosystem of the Gulf of Mexico, Destroyer is well suited for the king's title at the least. But the most daunting thing about this incident in the Gulf of Mexico is that it may not seem like a pure accident. As you see here in this photo from the Associated Press, this exact scene in the Gulf of Mexico is portrayed and was omened in the Hollywood movie titled Knowing in the year 2009, which was a year before its actual occurrence. If this was nearly impossible for you to accept it as a mere coincidence that a movie produced exact scene in the Gulf of Mexico without any influence or foreknowledge about the incident happening in the following year, it should not come to you as a surprise that the Bible prophesied about this incident nearly 2,000 years ago, and that someone here on earth is actually carrying it out, the Bible prophecy in the physical form as it is written. And I believe there are reasons why the Bible forewarns us about these events, and the answer in part is because this is only the beginning. We honestly do not know who is the Abaddon or Apollyon, the angel sent from the bottomless pit to become and rule as the Antichrist. But it should be clear that Bible forewarns us to pay attention to this event, because this is only the first woe of the three. By the third woe, the hidden king of the locusts will really surface on the global stage and call himself God while forcing all small and great, rich and poor people to receive the mark of the beast on the right hand or in the forehead as a sign of worship of the image of the beast. Therefore, we must keep watch and discern the times we live in, and be ready to make accurate assessment as the prophetic time and events unfold before us, and as the Antichrist rises to power in the global stage. So I believe that there is a very high probability that the BP Deepwater Horizon is the fifth trumpet prophesied in Revelation. As seen throughout Revelation, 3.5 years is exactly 42 months, which is written as exactly 1,260 days. So let's take a look at the intervals of the trumpets. In 1914, the first trumpet sounded. In 1939, the second trumpet, which are the World War I and II respectively. And if Chernobyl nuclear disaster is the third trumpet, it sounded in 1986. And although the probability is lower, we speculated the fourth and fifth trumpet to have sounded around the end of 20th century and in 2010, which we speculated to be chemtrail or global dimming phenomena and the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill incident. Anyhow, from the first to the second trumpet, there is a 25-year lapse of time. The next trumpet sounded in 47 years, which is a bit later. But after then, the gap seems to be shortening, which is what I wanted to point out. This is the shortening frequency of the birth pangs. You can see the effects of shortening frequency in the chart here. It illustrates the weekly distribution of percentage of women experiencing contractions or birth pangs since time of pregnancy. So from week 0 at the time of pregnancy till week 39 or 40, the graph indicates the probability that a woman will experience birth pangs on a weekly basis. This means that as time passes, the probability of experiencing birth pangs will increase exponentially as weeks go by. So when a woman becomes pregnant, she hardly experiences any birth pangs in the beginning, but towards the end of her pregnancy, as the time for childbirth approaches near, it is likely that she will experience more and more birth pangs. The first and second birth pangs might come with few days apart, and the birth pangs would start to come every day, every hour, every minute, then constantly at delivery. This is how the frequency shortens during the childbirth, and this is how the prophetic events of Revelation will unfold. The 7 seals will unfold in centurial intervals, the 7 trumpets will unfold in decadal intervals, and the 7 bowls will be all poured in less than a yearly interval, by all 7 of them being poured within last 3.5 years.